Good day, folks. Welcome to the MD Wildman channel. On today's video, we're talking about snares, okay? This video is about how to dull your snares down and dye your snares so that they blend in with the surrounding area. And I know a lot of guys do this a lot of different ways, and there's already some YouTube videos on that. If you want to check those out, feel free. I'm just going to show you how I do it. It's a one-step process. It's all natural. It's a piece of cake to do. And you can do it in the off season, and you don't need a long time to do it, okay? So stick with me, and we'll show you that here just in a minute. Listen, if you haven't yet subscribed to the Wildman channel, we sure would appreciate it. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And as always, we're looking for questions, comments, feedback, whatever you got along these lines, or if you've got some experience or something that you do differently, go ahead and share those with us, and just drop those in the comments down below, and we'll get back to you as soon as we possibly can on those. If the videos interest you or whatever, we appreciate to hit that bell so that you can get notified when we upload new content. Okay, so when we make our snares, and there's a pile of videos, I've got 2 or 3 on the channel about making snares. These are my regular coyote snares, and these are my small game snares, mink, and whatever. When we make them, as most of you will know already, they've got a factory coating on them. They're super shiny, and they've got a bit of factory oil on them and all of that. And you're not going to put these out in the woods like this, right? So, well, I guess you can. And you will catch stuff. You can catch stuff, right? But they've got an odor. They've got that oily type odor. And, I don't wear gloves and stuff when I make them for the most part. So they've got some of my scent on them, etc. And the locks are, oily, so don't rust and all that stuff. So what you want to do is you want to dull these up, and then you want to color them so that they're, so that they blend in with the natural surroundings. Now, there's all kinds of different ones. I used to get snares from Dakota Line Snares before they stopped going retail. And they'd be camo color or green color or whatever, and you can get them in white ones for wintertime and everything else. And you know what? What I've found over the years in all my snaring is that black is the way to go. Okay? Most of the animals that are going to be traveling down these trails and getting caught up in your snares are going to be doing early morning, dusk, or in the nighttime. Okay? So you can put, dark gray is great, green is fine, I'm sure, but I've just always decided the darker, like a blackish color, the darker you go, the better. And I found a real nice, easy, natural way to do that. And it's a one-step process. You don't have to degrease your snares first and then go ahead and dye them or color them. Some guys will spray paint them. A lot of stuff that you can do to snares, I'll be honest with you, a lot of stuff that you can do will slow snares down. Okay, so you've got your snare right now, and you built it and you loaded it, and it's lightning fast, or it's whatever, it's however you want it to be, and then you go ahead and spray paint this, or dip it, or use Formula 1 dip, or whatever you use, and what you'll end up doing is just gumming stuff up if you don't do it exactly right. Okay. Now, a lot of guys dip snares. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying that I've never actually been able to do it in a way that didn't slow my snare speed down, and I don't want that. Okay. I want a fast snare that's going to come down behind the animal, and then I'm going to make sure I get a catch. And so the way I do it is actually it's an all natural way. I build my snares, and you can use a bunch of snares. You can do 100 snares at a time if you want with this method. There's no real limit to it. So I'm going to show you real quickly how I degrease and color dye my. Hey guys, so here I am, local wood yard, and it doesn't matter where you get your bark from, but I'm going to use a bark solution to dip and dye my snares and degrease them. Now, some people will tell you that it's better off, you're better off to use a certain kind of bark, like maple or like oak, and they all will work, but when you do that, you get a very specific color. Now, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get a black, the darker the better. So what I like to do is just get a mixture of old pieces of bark. You want to try to get the stuff that's pretty thick from an older tree, and it's probably best that you don't cut it from a living tree. You don't want the pitch or you don't want the sap. What you're looking for is that tannus that's actually in the bark, okay? So I'm going to show you the type of stuff that I collect here. Just one second. Okay, so this is pretty much it, right? I'm in a local wood place, and they make firewood here. So up and down the rows, you've got all these pieces of bark that have fallen off. Like this is a good piece of maple, right? Nice and thick, old, dry as can be. You want to collect up some of that stuff, okay? You don't need a great deal of it. And it's also good to try to get some different types of bark, right? So throw some maple in there, some oak if you can find it. Cedar, birch, whatever you got, right? Just older bark stuff, and you just want to collect it up And you only need a small container, right? So maybe, I don't know, whatever that is. This little grocery bag full is all you're really looking for, okay? All right, guys, back here at the house, and I've got my container full of all the bark bits and pieces that I found at the local wood yard. Listen, I should mention to you, if you actually have one of those places where they process firewood, you know, they got the machine that, you know, that splits it and stuff and goes up on a conveyor belt and whatever. If you have one of those places, those are a little bit of a gold mine, right? Because you get underneath the conveyor belt, you get all these little tiny chips, and they're all different kinds of wood. Like, they're all the different kinds that they've processed out of the wood pile. So if you can have, if you find one of those spots, all you got to do is kind of just scoop up all those little chips, and you don't have the big pieces of bark to process. But anyway, so I've got all the different pieces. Also mention too, if you can, if it's possible, yellow birch has a real thick layer before you get to the burny kind of birch bark part. But those are, if you can find some of that, that's real good too. So this process is pretty simple from this point forward. There's two different ways you can do it. You can do it the way that, you know, just work away at it all summer. It takes a while, but it's, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to watch it. You just kind of got to set it and forget it. Or you can do it similar to the way that you would boil your traps, you know, for your trap dye in the off season, getting ready to go again. So I'll show you what I do, and you can decide if you want to do it the quick way or the slow way or whatever. So you're gonna need a pillowcase, right? Nothing fancy, just a regular pillowcase. Please make sure that your family / wife / whoever you take this from doesn't need this back, because it's going to be stained, right, with the natural dye color. Hopefully almost black before we're done. So the pillowcase will be ruined when you're done. Okay. What you're going to want to do here is just break this up into manageable sized chunks. Now, again, the smaller the chunk, the better, but you don't have to go nuts. I mean, these are 2 and 3 and 4 inch pieces, okay? You just don't want to shove a great big piece like this into the bag. Now, keep in mind, this will work. I mean, there's nothing that said that's going to mean this big piece doesn't work. It's just that the more area that you can expose the liquid to, the better and the faster the process will work, okay? So, I mean, you can leave the big chunks, but it takes longer to do. So by just breaking it up a little bit, I mean, it's good and dry, it's not a big deal. Just breaking it up a little bit, then your process will work a little better, and a little more expediently, I guess, if that's even a word, but it is a word because I just said it. So it must be a word, or I couldn't have said it, I would think, but it may not be a real word, but anyway. So we're just going to break up all our pieces and put them into the pillowcase. Okay, all my pieces in the pillowcase. Now, again, just to remind you that the key to this process for me has always been to use a bunch of different kinds of hardwood bark. Okay, so just maple, you know, will work, just oak will work, just birch will work, but the real key to getting a good dark, natural, you know, real nice dark stain naturally on my snares is to just use a bunch of different kinds of bark. It doesn't have to be fancy, it just has to be different kinds, okay? I've got all those in my pillowcase here, and I'll shake them all down, okay? And then next thing that you're gonna need is a way to activate this process. Now, if you put this in water, eventually that process will activate, and that water will, you know, that dye will seep out of our bark and into the water and then onto the snares, and that will work. But there's a way to actually speed that process up a little bit, and I like to do it because I do. But what you need is a piece or two of ready to light, easy, just charcoal. Okay, charcoal briquette, charcoal briquette. Piece of charcoal, and you can get that any number of different ways. Like if you've had a campfire in the last couple 3 days, I can't just pull from the end. I did that. Oh, really? Okay, so anyway, if you've had a campfire in the last couple of days, you can go back and grab a couple of the pieces of wood you know, that didn't quite burn all the way down, that activated charcoal, and use that. But I like to just use this because apart from getting the bag open, it's pretty easy. So in a bunch this size, I'm gonna put in 4 little charcoal bricks. Okay, so they go in there. That helps to activate the process of the dye coming out of the wood. Okay. Now this is for me. Again, you do what you want, but for me, this is one of those things. I'm going to make a batch of this at the first of the, the first of the off season, and it's going to be all summer long. I'm never going to make one of these again. I'm going to keep it in this bucket. So once I got this, I got my 4 pieces of charcoal in here, and I got all my bark pieces, and I'm going to tie this bag off. Okay, the reason that I'm going to tie this bag off is because I don't want the bits and pieces of the bark in my actual mixture. All I want is the stuff that comes out of it, that seeps out of the bag. What can happen is you can put your snares in there and then you get a little piece of that bark that settles down on the snare, and then it does the dyeing process, and then you take them out and you're like, oh, there's a piece of bark on there. So you flick it off and it leaves a bare spot. Okay. Also, you can get some stuff mixed in with the fibers of your snare, slows them down. I don't want to risk any of that. So all I do is tie off the bag. Okay. So once this is tied off, it goes into the bucket. And I crunch it down into the very bottom of the pail if I can, right? So if you've chopped up your pieces, big enough, this should basically lay nice and neat in the bottom of your pail, okay? Now, I got my snares, any amount of snares I want. As I make them or as you buy them or whatever, you can toss snares in here. And for this method, this is my set it and forget it method. All I would do now is I would take this bucket with the stuff in it. I'm going to fill it right up to the, just right up to the top, maybe 1 inch, maybe 2 inches down from the top of this pail. And once it's filled with water, I'm going to take my snares and I'm just going to drop them in. Right? So I got 2 or 3 dozen snares made, fire them in the pail, walk away. Don't check them, don't take them out. 2 or 3 weeks goes by, whatever. You happen to be walking by the pail and you go, oh, those snares have been in there for a while. Take them with a little hook. You're going to pull them out. You're going to check your color. If you like the color, right? If it's dark enough for you and you like the color of it, then hang them up to dry and you're good as gold. You haven't put anything on them. You haven't boiled them. You haven't done anything. You've just let them sit in this mixture with the bark and the charcoal and the water over time. Now, if you're impatient or you don't have enough time before season starts or whatever, and you want to go ahead and degrease and dye your snares quicker, you do the exact same process, except for putting them in a pail, you're going to put them in some type of stock pot or crock pot that you're going to be able to boil, okay? So whatever you would normally dye your traps in or whatever, half a 55-gallon drum or whatever it is. So you do the same process with the pillowcase and the whole deal, and then you would boil them after you put your snares in for about 45 to 60 minutes. So 3/4 to, 3/4 of an hour to an hour. You would boil those, and then again you check them. If you like the color, take them out, hang them to dry, and you're good to go. I don't love that process for a couple reasons. Just because I don't want to do work I don't have to do. So boiling is work I don't have to do, and I just never really liked the thought of boiling my snares. I always had this weird thought that it was somehow reducing the tension or the strength of the steel, and that may be garbage. That just may be some fictitious thing in my head. But if I don't have to boil stuff, I don't do it. So anyway, I just let my snares sit in this. So anyway, listen, I hope this helps you out and something you can use out on your line. And I'm going to show you right here. These are some snares that I've done this process with, and I've just pulled them out of the bucket. So these have been in for about 3 weeks, and this is what they look like. So this is a nice dark color that I like, and this is what I'm kind of looking for in the process. So anyway, look, I hope this helps you out. And until next time, happy hunting from the MB Wildman channel.